Because I remember there was one point when we were like going through the trials and tribulations of that Q4 and in like I believe either 2023.
It was the end of 2023.
Yeah, in 2023, it's like, what's our inventory and what's our debt on the business? Wow, that's pretty similar. We got to really
that balance sheet was not looking good.
Yeah, that balance sheet was tight. So
yeah,
but we were able to get out
unbalanced.
of it. Yeah, very unbalanced. But I'm very impressed that we were able to kind of get that back in check and without, a lot of times people will just kind of borrow out money and do it that way and just kind of climb themselves out and make other poor decisions. But I like the way that we were able to kind of step back and really take pretty much all of 2024 just to kind of like rebalance, kind of rethink through things and how we were doing stuff and just create better systems which in 2025 this year has created an absolute monster.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to finish out this 2025 season and see where we're at.
Yep.
E-commerce is the greatest business opportunity of our generation.
What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Ecom Unlimited podcast. It's your boy Kaj here with my business partner and co-host Josh.
What's going on, everybody?
And before we get into the conversation for today, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode. That is Smart Scout. This is a tool that we use in our business every single week to do brand level research as well as some keyword research now as well. If you guys are doing brand direct or even if you're doing OA and just trying to get a better understanding of the brands that you're looking at, Smart Scout is a must have. You can use the code Ecom Unlimited or the link in the description to sign up for a free trial and get a discount on your first few months using the tool. Today, it's just going to be me and Josh, and we're actually going to do a little bit of a reintroduction or a backstory of our journey in this space. Obviously, we normally have guests on the podcast and we have conversations around e-commerce, primarily Amazon, but we know we have a lot of new listeners on the podcast and you guys may not be fully aware of our story. So we kind of wanted to jump into that because we've taken a little bit of a non-traditional path in the Amazon selling space. So Josh, why don't you take us back to the very beginning of how we even got into business together and then how we got into Amazon.
Yeah. So again, I don't want to bore the people, but so we're going to try to keep it nice and concise.
Yes.
Just so you guys can understand where we've been. But it all started, I would say, in high school when we both wanted to think about, selling, certain amounts of product in the drink category. And this business model was really, consumer to consumer.
Yep.
Nothing to do with Amazon. It was our first side hustle together.
Multi-level marketing.
I was excited.
Baby.
Yeah. I was excited because it was something new. And I really liked the idea of always doing a side business. I was big into like flipping an eBay back then, going to different yard sales, the Gary Vee style. But that was even before that. So me and Kaj did that for a while. Wouldn't say we were very successful at it, but what was really cool about that experience is the people that we met along the way. We met a lot of people who were very successful at that business model and were very high up in the company. And we saw what kind of, lifestyle they were living and how they kind of carried themselves. And it was intriguing for us to potentially then go find what would be our next journey, which would be more into the Amazon side of things. And this is where I kind of took over because in college, I was looking for things to do, trying to make more money. I was selling stuff on eBay. I was big into the Facebook marketplace, eBay flip. That was like my kind of bread and butter back in the day in college. And I was like, there's got to be, a better way to do this. I remember, going on YouTube and looking up, how to make money online, and Amazon FBA was one of those options. And so I looked at a couple guys, and one was more the private label guy. He was like, make your own product, you ship it in. And then the other advertisement was a guy selling Crest toothpaste, doing 3 packs of Crest toothpaste. And I was like, back then, I was just like, toothpaste sounds, doesn't sound very fun, doesn't sound like creative. Wanted to go a little bit more of the creative route. So then we dove into private label, and Kaj can kind of go further on
Yep.
how that went.
Yeah, and so that was 2017. So at that point, we were juniors in college, right?
Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah. And actually, quick comment on the high school thing. I remember when we were doing that first side hustle, that was the first time in my life I discovered there were ways to make money other than having a job.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
I
exactly.
remember that was mind blowing for me.
Yeah, because my mom.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I feel like both our moms kind of ingrained in us.
Yeah.
Like it's like, the path is simple. Finish school, good grades, college, then you go get a job. We were very traditional in that sense, and there wasn't really anybody in my family that owned their own business and was successful at it. So there was no need for that type of education. And I don't know. I'm guessing your family was more the same, Kaj.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, one of my uncles, he's always kind of done like side businesses as well, but pretty much everyone always had, steady jobs, solid education, preach going to school, all that stuff. So for me, it was just mind blowing that there were either other options. And so then, and you kind of got me into that. And then I was like, especially with the Amazon, like that's the only reason I was even willing to try that. Cause I was just like, oh, like, we've experienced that entrepreneurship is a thing and it can actually work for young people. It's not just for, people with a lot of money that are investing in stocks. Right. But yeah, so you sent me the YouTube video of the guy doing private label. I distinctly remember watching it in my parents' house late one night. And I was just like, I think we can do this. And so I actually just got back on Snapchat for the first time in a while. And I have the Snapchat memory when I took it after watching that YouTube video. And I was like, the caption was something along the lines of, when Josh sends you a business idea, you're going to send it or something like that. And yeah, so from there it was like, okay, I think we paid $500 for the guy's course, which was just A to Z, like setting up an LLC, setting up an Amazon account, doing product research, using Jungle Scout, like literally A to Z private label launch. And we just pretty much followed that step by step. We found one product that we thought would do well that did not do well. And my theory is that everyone who bought this guy's course found the same product. Because when we launched it, there was maybe like 20 listings, or when we did the research. And then when we launched it, it was like 100. 100. And so if I remember correctly, we wanted to sell it for 25 and we had to sell it for like 16.
Yeah. And that was kind of frustrating because we saw, the prices go down and we were like, oh, what are we doing? But then we would have days where someone would order 12 units. Yes. And we were like, oh, that's sick. Like, this does potentially actually work.
Yes. There was one day we were both sitting in, it wasn't like the main cafeteria, but one of Widener's cafeterias. And we just like checked the sales app. We had like a crazy sales day. We're like, this is crazy. It's like $300. But that was like proof of concept. But yeah, so anyway, we did private label first because that was honestly the only way we thought you could sell on Amazon. We at that time we weren't aware of arbitrage, weren't aware of wholesale, any of those other models. We were just kind of like private label, one track mind. So we did that product, and mind you, we also bootstrapped. So me and Josh, we used our own cash, sent however many thousands of dollars to a supplier through Alibaba, and we were just hoping and praying that it wasn't a scam. I'll never forget that first wire overseas. So yeah, first product did not go well, but we learned. We successfully got a product in. We made the samples. We ordered however many hundred units. We sold through all of them. We maybe lost a couple $100 all in, but we knew it worked. And then it was like, okay, we need to find a better product, launch a second one. And mind you, we're still in school at this point, so it's very much a side hustle. We probably did another 6 to 7 months of product research before we picked one, went through the sample process again, tweaked the product, had our own branding around it. And that product actually, as far as like private label is concerned, it was a successful product. I think we sold over 10,000 units, I want to say.
Not
maybe
10,000 units?
I think maybe 7 to 8. Somewhere in that range.
7 to 8.
7 to 8. Okay, that sounds right.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember when we launched it, like the first time we launched the product, I remember we got a sale the first day, and I texted you, dude, we got a sale. And you're like, no, I just paid my neighbor to go buy it to get a review. And I was like, dang it. I was like, all right, that wasn't as exciting as I thought.
Yep.
But this one, I remember, we launched it. As soon as it hit the warehouse, I don't think our listing was like totally completely done yet.
Definitely weren't running ads.
Yeah, we were definitely need to tweak a couple things still, and we were like already getting sales. And we were like, whoa, this is like way different than last time.
Yep.
Like, this is kind of crazy. And then, so we were selling that really good, but then, COVID happened, and that pretty much made it really hard for us. And it was still really hard for us based on like a cash flow side of things, ordering the product.
Because we were still bootstrapped.
Because we were still bootstrapped. So it was basically waiting for, everything to be manufactured, shipping. And then by the time it got to the Amazon warehouse, and then you would have to forecast it like,
yes, because you can't run out of
3
stock
to 4 months in advance.
You're cooked.
Yeah, so because if you run out of stock, you're basically cooked. So it's like it was almost impossible to take anything out unless you have like crazy good margins, which we had decent margins, but there was nothing like 100% or 50% or anything like that. So we were then became very aware of the issue with cash flow that we were going to have to run into. And then COVID happened, and then that kind of hurt us a bit just with the shipping rates going up drastically. Well, actually, it helped us because it made everybody else run out of stock because we got our stock in just in time. And we were able to sell through a batch at like a really good price and make a lot of margin on that product.
Yes, it was it was a roller coaster because at the very beginning of lockdown, it was like sales were just going nuts. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to be millionaires. And then we realized the backside of that was we're not going to be able to reorder because because the cost of a container went from a few grand to 15 grand.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we're cooked.
And we're cooked.
So then at that point, I remember for a little bit, we were looking into a third private label launch, potentially.
Yep.
And then we did a lot of research into that, almost pulled the trigger, and then ended up deciding to pivot to retail arbitrage, which again, that was more of your research and in your decision just based on the scenario.
Well, also, I think it was yours too, because I think the big thing that got us to go towards retail arbitrage was the Buy Box Bandage podcast.
Yes.
And I remember you showing me those episodes, and I was like, oh, dude, we could do this way better than we could ever do private label, because I already had like the eBay background, and I knew that type of model of kind of the flipping process, I would say. So that really kind of got me excited. And we also realized that cash flow issues would be a lot less issues as well. So those are the two things I felt like that really allowed us to transition towards retail arbitrage pretty quickly.
Yep. And so we did retail arbitrage for maybe 6 months to a year, just focusing on that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice because we live close together, but we're like maybe 20 to 30 minutes apart. And so like I would go hit Marshall's, Target's, TJ Maxx, all go in one way, and you would hit. Yeah. So we had a loop of like probably 10 plus stores that together we would all hit. And essentially like if one of us found a lead, which was mostly you, it would just be like, all right, go to all the stores and just find it. And then that was kind of what we did for a while, bring it back to the house, use the hair dryer in the little sticky
take off the labels.
Oh, what a disaster!
Gosh,
send it to FA, but that was a grind for a little bit. But we learned RA, but quickly realized that was not going to be scalable.
Yeah, we really ran into the issues of scale. However, we did have some really good flips, and we'll go through one story here because I remember this kind of specifically. I was at a Goodwill, and I was like, I don't even know what I could sell at Goodwill, like on eBay. Like I was like, I can't really sell, like nothing's in the package. But then I was like looking at all the books, and I was like, this is probably potentially a good place to go. And for some reason, I just started scanning some of the books, and I came into this section where I was like, this feels like a nice book. And they were basically old ship manifests like the Mayflower. And what you could do is what they basically did was they basically broke down the Mayflower. So if you wanted to rebuild it, you could using this book. And it was very like detailed and articulate and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, I wonder if this sells pretty good on Amazon. And Goodwill was selling it for like $2. And I scanned it. And I think the first one was selling for like 150. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, this is great. This is like, what a great find. This is fantastic. And then I look up on the shelf and there was like 10 more books just like it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, wow. So I basically walked out of Goodwill, like cost me like $20. And I'm pretty sure we made like a good like 700, 600 on those books.
In profit.
So that was like the first one where I was like, wow, this is like sweet. But then we ran into the problem where it's like, you know, we had too much capital at that point to then we couldn't spend enough, and it was taking up too much time. So that's when we more transitioned to online arbitrage.
Yep. And yeah, with the RA thing, nothing blows my mind more. Well, that's a hyperbole, but whenever I see someone on Twitter X and they're like, yeah, I'm doing $1 million a year, 100% RA, I cannot fathom that. That's something I actually can't understand. Like, I understand how to scale private label, I understand how to scale OA, understand wholesale. Anyone who has scaled retail arbitrage, I salute you. That is, to me, the most difficult way to do it. But you're going to have some gnarly margins. Yeah,
you have to have some serious systems in place, or you actually have to have a really good system of like finding leads. I think if like you have really good lead generation, I think it's definitely doable because you know exactly what you're going in and looking for. But dude, some of the lines that you have to stand in are just absurd. And then like the stores are looking at you weird. Yeah.
I distinctly remember there were sometimes, like especially Q4, it's like you go into a store, you find a great lead and you're like, oh, this flips great. And then I'm doing the math while I'm waiting in line, and it's like, all right, I have $100 of profit in my cart and I'm spending 30 minutes in line.
I know.
And then it's like the time per hour is like not good.
It's not very good. And then you have like the cashier asking like, oh, it's like you're buying all these jumpsuits. So you got like
you have a soccer team? Yes, I do.
Like, no, I'm just going to resell these actually. It's like, oh gosh.
But it is a great way to get started because it's very tangible. And it's also easy to like match products. Because that was one thing we ran into when we started doing OA is like, is this the same? And then you like at a quick glance, you're like, oh, this is the same product. Then you get it in, not the same. Then you have to return it. That's a headache too. But once we started doing OA, got some coaching from Miles, shout out, and then unlocked the OA sourcing skill, which is a very different sourcing technique than retail arbitrage. And then we're like, oh, that clicked for both of us. Obviously, you were better at sourcing than I was, but from the operation side, that also made sense for me. And then we went all in on OA.
Yeah, and I think OA was probably, I think that will, in my mind, that will be, I think that is, for me, that's the glory days. The OA days are the glory days.
Those are the glory days.
Grinding Nike just day and night, just opening up boxes, being pissed that we got to return with like a different pair of like, we didn't even send this into Amazon and somehow we got it as a return. Like just all the crazy stories that we would have in the warehouse, just hanging out, listening to music, just cranking through inventory. That was great.
The OA glory days are pretty unmatched. And because we hired one of our best friends, another one of our best friends, his wife was working for us for a little bit, hired some neighbors too. So we had like a mini prep operation going on in the garage. Systems were
and then we did prep for one of our other friends too.
We got another friend into Amazon and we were his prep center. It was like, those were the days where we were the most hands-on with the product, which now with what we're doing now, we use pretty much a 3PL for almost everything, but I will always fondly remember those days because we were doing like warehouse days two times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'd go in and it's just like, all right, we got to get out 500 units today. That's the goal. And then we would just like sort, print labels, debag, prep, rebox. Yeah, those are fun times.
We had an absolute system.
Yeah. we were pretty dumb.
That was fun.
And we almost bought a warehouse, which thank God we did not.
I know.
Or rented a warehouse space. Not actually bought, but.
Yeah, very happy about that. That would have been tough. I think that would have been tough for us to get out of. And that was one of those mistakes that could have definitely set us back a few years. So easily. I'm very happy.
Yeah, we didn't get into that route. Yeah. And actually, well, before we get to the next transition, I wanted to kind of put some numbers on things. So private label is how we hit our first $100,000 in sales, right? Lifetime. Not in a year. Or was it a year?
I thought it was a year.
I think it was, because I remember there was one night where we were like on the phone together. And we kept refreshing because we needed one more sale. And then we hit 100K for trailing 12.
Crazy.
Yep. Yeah. That was a crazy moment. That was another proof of concept. So private label hit our first $100,000 in sales. And then I don't know how much we technically did retail arbitrage. But I
I
know,
kind of mix them both.
but once we started doing OA, that's when we hit our first $1 million in revenue. Was scaling up OA. Because retail arbitrage, we were maybe at like 10K months, and then added OA, got to about 20K months on our own, and then with mentorship got to like 50K, 60K, and then just pushed it from there. Had a big Q4 and hit that first $1 million year.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And then
here's one quick fun story. You want to talk about the iced teas?
Oh gosh, yeah. That was in the RA days.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that was one of our best RA flips, actually.
Yeah. So one of my favorite stores to go into was Ollie's, and I go into Ollie's and I'm getting skunked out. I can't find anything. Freaking, I've been in there for like 2 hours just grinding away, scanning stuff, and I come across this pallet of Arnold Palmer iced teas, and I was like, all right, it seems kind of cheap, like $3.50 for a 6-pack seemed to be a little bit cheap. So took out the app, scanned it, and I think they were selling on Amazon for like 20 or like 18. And I was like, oh, wow, like that is way more expensive than $3.50. And then after I did the math and put it in the calculator, I was like, gosh, we can like it was almost like, I think it was like 70-80% margin, I think, on it.
Yeah.
I was like, gosh, as much as we hate to do this, like we have to do it. And so Kaj was like, all right, that's fine. And so obviously I had to go to work the next day, and I was like, I'm so scared someone's gonna like come in here and buy the whole pallet before us. So I was like, gosh, you got to get here like tomorrow and like just buy all this up. And he's like, all right,
here we
doing
go.
it.
Full send.
So I get it. Yeah, so I get a text. He's like, I rented a U-Haul. I was like, oh, that's fine. That's a great idea. So rented a U-Haul for the day, went down there, and Ollie's processes are just absolutely terrible. I thought it would be like the easy, let's just count them all up, pay for what we counted up and just get out of there.
Mental image for the viewer. It's the most beautifully stacked pallet you've ever seen.
Yes.
It's very clearly like layers of 20, 5 high, 100.
Yep.
And like if one's taken off the corner, you just do the math. But the lady at the front is like, our policy is I have to physically touch every single one. I was like, are you kidding me? She was like, no. So at the checkout line, they bring the pallet up and she completely unloads the pallet into individual shopping carts so she can count every single one. It like took 30 minutes. So we moved them once, and then we had to load them into the truck and then move them there. Then I had to take them home, unload them in the garage, but I wasn't thinking when I stacked them because they were super dusty and we wanted to wipe them down, and also we needed to take off the barcodes. So then we had to move them again. Then we had to it was a disaster.
Repalletized it. Trucks came in. We needed a lift gate. Trucks were coming in without lift gates into my mom's like residential area. It was a disaster.
It was terrible. But we did make money. But based on the amount of time we put in, it was not worth it.
It was not worth it.
But we learned that lesson the hard way.
We did learn that lesson the hard way. But I think those types of experiences is what kind of mentally prepared us / directed us towards wholesale.
Yes. Yep. And being more hands-off and not having our own warehouse.
Yes. And not having our own warehouse for sure.
So, all right. Bringing back up or catching up on the timeline. So we were doing pretty much all OA all of 2022. That was just like focusing on OA. And then 2023, we started adding in a little bit of wholesale, but we're still predominantly OA. 2023 was another $1 million year, or that might have been our first $1 million year. I forget the exact timeline.
I think it could have been.
But we started doing wholesale. We were listening to, actually, it was Corey's podcast on the Buybacks Bandits, as well as a podcast that Dylan Carter used to do, which is still live, but he doesn't record new episodes for it, called the Wholesale Made Easy podcast. So I was binging that, taking up tons of notes, and then we started making calls. Our first account that we got open turned out to be a distributor that was literally 5 minutes down the road from us. We pulled up in person, got the account, started ordering from them. Probably spent 40, 50K with them over the course of a few months before stuff became not profitable. But then we slowly did the distribution side of things. all of 2023. So that was a mix of wholesale and OA, which was another really, really fun year. And then 2024 was when we kind of started adding in the brand direct exclusive side of things. So we already had some brands we were buying from direct, but then we started moving into that partnership model. 2024 was also a really tough year. I'll link I think we have a podcast where we talked about some of the Q4 disasters from that. We got screwed out of a lot of money. We lost money on a really big purchase order. 2024 overall was kind of a rebuilding year, kind of recovering from those things, but also building the base of brand direct and establishing some exclusive accounts. And then now 2025, I mean, we do.
What do you think we're going to do this year?
Well, our goal is 1.25 to 1.5. I definitely think we should hit 1.25 at the pace we're going at.
I agree.
I don't have my phone in front of me, but I think we're at 730K for the year, and it is August 28th.
Yeah.
Yep. And the last few months have been pretty good, and we got some big POs on the way as well. So, yeah, I think we should hit the exciting. 1.25, 1.3. I think by the end of the year, which would be pretty solid.
Would be so sick.
Yes.
Yeah, we're 731K.
Okay. Oh wow, that was very close.
Very close. So with the Q4 to go. So.
Yeah, we kind of transitioned from just doing wholesale arbitrage into the brand direct model. And part of that was like not every time, but there was always an issue, even with just wholesale distribution. It was like, okay, if other people have access to it, it's going to tank. Or the brand's putting stuff in transparency, or it was a gray market buy, which isn't illegal, but Amazon, that's right when Amazon started to ask for more documentation as well. So it was like, there was one brand that we got completely hard gated on because our invoices didn't work for some customer complaints, or it was like a slight mismatch or something like that. Yeah. So that for me was just like, okay, I'm so done dealing with the stress of regates and having Amazon say you need this documentation, not approving it. It's like, if literally just for peace of mind and also margin, but mainly peace of mind at the time when I was making the decisions. Like if we're going brand direct and we know the invoices is clean and we're in their brand registry, then I'm going to sleep way better at night and we're going to have much better margin. And personally for me, that's just more fun. So that's kind of been our evolution over the years. At this point, we've done just over 3 million lifetime revenue. Which is pretty solid and crazy to think about. In college, I don't think I would have believed that was possible. It's also not the most. There are definitely people who've done bigger numbers, but for us, I think
in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, for sure. But we've never been the Chad scaling type.
No, we always like take it slow and steady.
We've been very slow and steady. We've had some setbacks that we've had to recover from. Yeah. Which honestly, the fact that we've survived those is kind of one of the things I'm the most proud of.
It's a miracle. Yeah.
It could have taken us out.
Definitely could have.
But we're in a really, really solid place now, and I think the next couple of years should be some solid exponential growth.
Yeah, and it feels like and we're starting to build up a lot of cash flow too, which is great. Because I remember there was one point when we were like going through the trials and tribulations of that Q4 in like I believe either 2023.
It was the end of 2023.
In 2023, it's like, what's our inventory and what's our debt on the business? Wow, that's pretty similar. We got to really dial this in.
That balance sheet was not looking good.
that balance sheet was tight. So, but we were able to get out
unbalanced.
of it. Very unbalanced. But I'm very impressed that we were able to kind of get that back in check, and without, a lot of times people will just kind of borrow out money and do it that way and just kind of climb themselves out and make other poor decisions. But I like the way that we were able to kind of step back and really take pretty much all of 2024 just to kind of like rebalance, kind of rethink through things and how we were doing stuff and just create better systems which in 2025 this year has created an absolute monster. Yeah. So I'm very excited to finish out this 2025 season and see where we're at. So,
And the other thing I'm excited with too, just like looking back on this, and this is also for the viewer as well, like every time you transition a business model, it's like you're kind of starting a new business, even though it's same entity, same platform. Like the difference between private label and RA and OA and brand is huge. So like we really were establishing new systems, building a new team or retraining employees and kind of almost starting from ground zero. I mean, obviously not completely from zero, but one of the things that I'm most excited about is kind of looking back and seeing how time with a certain model reaps benefits, and how now that we're like both all in on brand direct for the long term, how that's now really starting to stack for us. And so I think that, again, that exponential growth over the next few years is going to be really, really cool to see for us.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm so excited that we've gone the brand direct side. Don't get me wrong, OA was good and fun, but man, you have seasons where, sales aren't clicking, you just have all this money and it feels like you can't get the money out the door profitably. And that can be really frustrating, especially in these types of models. And then that could lead to bad decisions.
Yes.
So, I mean, brand direct side, whatever you're selling is basically the money you got to get out the door. And if it's just sitting in the account, that's fine. Another opportunity will come up or another brand will come up that you can kind of go after and potentially put capital into them. But you're not worried about having to always spend that money to then get back money, this is a business model that I like a little bit better because you can really take some risk out of the inventory that you are buying, which is 100%. Nice.
Yep. And the other cool thing too, so even more macro, is just the benefit of us being public with what we're doing, even just with the podcast. Like, we've had brands get recommended to us. Our first agency client was recommended to us. And all of that has come because we've been consistently posting on Twitter, X, a little bit LinkedIn, doing the podcast, networking within the wholesale network, coaching people up within the wholesale network. And that in itself has really, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's amplified the business. Whereas there are opportunities we definitely would not have had if we were not doing those things.
Yeah, and even going to like conferences too. As much as you think conferences are like a money suck, oh, I didn't meet anybody this year. Well, that was kind of on you if you don't meet anybody at a conference. But like the people that we were able to meet and friends we were able to meet and even partner with in business has, allowed our business to grow vastly as well, which has put or is going to make, our revenue this year that much bigger. So I still can't believe, with the Miami Seller Central being one of the main ones that I go to, how much partnership and decisions we've had to make actually being in Miami, that has created, this machine that we have that we have also created. So I'm very excited for the end of this year.
Super cool.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Kaj, anything else you want to talk about?
We're Cajua and Josh, multi-7-figure Ecom sellers, been in the game for 8 years, and that is our story.
Yes, that is our story, guys. So, guys, leave a comment. If you want us to talk about a topic that you're interested in, leave a comment in the comment section because we want to hear from you guys. We want to make sure that we want to be answering your questions. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, follow the podcast so you can stay updated on all of our new content. And we will see you on the next one.